Recording in progress.
Hello and welcome to episode 307 of Long Toss. I am your host, Scott Belford. This is the walk-off, and we are in kind of a weird scenario here right now. It is currently the top of the ninth. It is 3-3 in this Jays Oakland game. So, yes, the viewership is low right now. If you are following along, feel free to give us a like and show a little love by hitting that subscribe button. We do appreciate it. We have a great panel for you today, and apologies if you're watching this pre-recorded later and you're like, well, this is weird. Obviously, we know what happened in the game. That'll probably all shake out in the next 10 minutes here. So in the meantime, we're just rolling with it. Let's start with our regulars here. Always glad to have on the show the one and only Baseball Jen. How was your weekend?
It was okay. I'm not gonna lie. I was asleep until like a half hour ago. So I woke up in time to see them give up the lead and then tie it.
And then tie it back up.
Yeah.
This is true baseball, Blue Jays style, if you will, a 3-3 game against an underachieving team so far.
It's very much the battle of the mids, right? So
yes.
hence the nap.
Our other go-to panelist here, our other regular, Joel Aflam. Hey, call me on TikTok. Buddy, thanks so much for joining us. How's your weekend been, my man?
Going well. A friend of mine, his kid, her kid graduated junior high, so we did a little thing for him, and he got all dressed up, and he wore like a blue suit, like Blue Jay style. Kind of, he was gonna get black, but he knows that I'm a Blue Jay fan, so he got a blue kind of tinge to it. So I was proud of him. That was really nice to see. So nice to see those kinds of things. And then, like, really, my enthusiasm is based literally probably on the next 5 or 6 outs here. So we'll see how my weekend goes.
That's a great way of putting it here. Welcome to the show, our fellow walk-off host here of the Walk-Off Mariners, Juan Forno. Welcome back, buddy. You took last Sunday off. How was that for you? Are you all good? Brownie points with the wife now.
Yeah, the wife is good, but the day job is not, man. It's been a grind of a week. I think this will be our 66 and 67 of work this week. So it's a good thing I took last Sunday off, but I'm excited to be here.
Glad to have back on the show as well. Jeff from 4040 Men. How has your weekend been, my man?
It's been pretty good, actually. I've been thoroughly enjoying taking care of a cat. And
well,
that's
perfect.
No, I actually saw an old friend of mine, a comic friend of mine, who's been living in LA for a long time. She came back here. I haven't seen her in like 20 years. So Renee Percy, you did awesome, kid. You did awesome. She's fantastic.
Speaking of comedians, what a perfect transition here. The thing he'd like to be mentioned the least, Sean Lacomber, welcome back to Long Toss, bud. How are you feeling right now? We're going to jump right into it here, Sean, about this Toronto Blue Jays
Forget
team.
about how my weekend was.
Forget about how your weekend was.
Everybody else gets a weekend talking point. I get to jump right into, what do you think of Bigio? Where's Bigio going to land? I don't know.
Well, now I feel guilty. How was your weekend?
It was good. But quit wasting time. Let's just get into this. Got the ugliest Jays hat on in the history of the organization.
Listen, I don't like this logo, but I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about for those of you here. That's the fluorescent orange,
the Shea Hillenbrand
green, the fluorescent green, the Shea Hillenbrand logo.
It's like the St. Patty's Day version.
I think you're simultaneously cheering for both the Athletics and the Orioles with that hat.
That's exactly. I'm torn at this point with my allegiance. I can't help it. It's the 90s kid in me. I see fluorescent and I'm like, ooh, that looks fun. I could wear that.
That looks cool. Like that. The hat is cool. It's just
the hat is cool. It's just the logo lacks.
Yeah.
And maybe there's plenty of folks there that the kids seem to like this logo. I don't know what it is. The kids are all about this logo. I don't think they watched enough Blue Jays during that era to have like the emotional damage and baggage that goes with this logo, I think is the thing. So
But
I guess
I
that's
always make the mistake of thinking that I have the same taste as everybody. So I'm like, well, obviously that Washington Capitals era jersey is the most disgusting Washington Capitals jersey. And then, but then my kids are like, that's the best one. And I'm like, how can you even, like, I get more mad about people's tastes in like sports clothing
I just
than the
wanted to
team
ask
itself.
what kids you got that info from, Scott.
Oh, I'm pretty connected to Blue Jays
Oh.
Twitter. You know, I'm pretty tied in there with
Okay.
all the kids on Blue
Them,
Jays Twitter.
them.
Yeah. So we're currently 30 and 32. Who knows how this next half a inning plays out, if would they get walked off again, or if they can go to extra innings and win this thing. But definitely backs against the wall. I think that's pretty safe to say with this team currently. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made by the front office. I think the deadline they gave was the All-Star break. They really need to see how this team does and if they can improve and survive throughout June. So Sean, I will throw to you now, and I am curious on your thoughts about the upcoming schedule, and if a win in this game today and taking the series against Oakland, which we could wind up just like literally eating our words here. Again, we are live right now, everybody. So hit that like button. But once you're rewatching this and thinking this is weird, it will all even out here. We're in the bottom of the ninth right now. Sean, tell me your thoughts on this series with Oakland and where you're at watching a team that just has been pretty much the same thing, not being able to score all season long. And that's again where we're at today.
I think they're just gonna, the expanded playoffs changes everything for this franchise and has for a while. Like, they're just gonna try to grind into that third wild card spot. Like, I don't think there's anybody in the organization that thinks, if things turn our way a little bit, maybe we're that team. Maybe we're that team that's, whatever, 5, 6, 7 games over 500 and just squeezes in. And then at that time, we've paid the money for the starting pitching. Like, we believe in our starting pitching, and that's how you win in the playoffs. I mean, it hasn't worked the last couple of years to just squeeze in and then get squeezed out. But I mean, I think that's where they're gonna, like, sometimes I forget, like, these are just guys trying to keep jobs, like, and when you're a guy trying to keep a job, you're like, no, don't look over there, you idiot. That's some place to look over here. So of course that, I don't think any, maybe the only thing that's going to change is, do they add or do they just not subtract and just see where it goes? But I think they're just going to kind of keep doing exactly what they're doing. Grinding, trying to grind out wins, use the money they've invested in that starting pitching to carry them. Hopefully the bullpen bounces back a little bit. I mean, it's strange. It doesn't, like, the only thing I think it's weird is, when getting rid of Bigio, like, they didn't even make him prove it before they got rid of, like, I know they had to open up a spot, but like, they're the kind of organization that usually makes somebody come up and prove it before they're going to make some kind of change like this. The fact that they bring him up and Bigio's out, gets squeezed immediately, is surprising to me, but I don't know. Maybe it had to be that way. I don't know.
I think for number one, great point about where they're at in the standings. And for those of you who haven't looked recently, they're only 2.5 games back of the wild card, despite the fact they're 2 games under 500. But with these new playoff rules that were put in, last year, and an extra team getting in, it really, they're in it for a lot longer. And if you can kind of hover around that 500 mark, and then, like Sean said, the pitching, I mean, my God, the pitching has been insane. Chris Bassett goes 8 innings in the first game of this Oakland series. And really the only bullpen work we saw up until today was Chad Green pitching 1 pitch to give up a walk-off home run to Oakland A. So maybe, like, all the talk that you've heard recently about a teardown probably isn't near as eminent as some of us may believe, because for all the reasons Sean just kind of stated, is that this team could very well keep their head above water long enough that they can make a push.
And you can keep your jobs. Like, everybody gets to keep their job. Like,
And it's a job fest.
You hang
exactly.
in there and you get the third wild card and you advance past that first round, everybody keeps their job.
Mark Shapiro gets to have his big press conference when he comes out and says, how can you get rid of a general manager who's made the playoffs out of 5
Continuity
years?
is a
Exactly.
competitive advantage.
Yes. So, Jen, I know we went to a game. My wife Taylor, you and I were all privy to some tickets from Mish. So, like, a tip of the hat there to her for that. Fun little game. We got to watch a win. Where are you at right now on the pitching for this team? Because we just watched. I mentioned Chris Bassett. Obviously, Kevin Gausman with one of his best career starts up to this point. You know, and like he's an old seasoned veteran, so whenever you can get that kind of performance, and yet the Jays, even though that's the case, this pitching has been incredible. They very possibly could lose this series. We've talked about this before. This is stay the course, right? This is a team that's built around pitching. It's built around defense. And without major upheaval, that's pretty much what you got to run with.
It is. And the problem with that right now is regardless of the pitching performance they get, you never know if they're going to score enough runs to make it matter, right? So even with their often superior pitching, they're still losing games, right? Them putting up 7 runs yesterday in support of a phenomenal Kevin Gausman outing, you know, that's not typical of this team, right? So you never know which version of the offense you're going to get, but more often than not, it is slim pickings. And that's got to be really wearing on a pitching staff that has to go out there and essentially be lights out, be nearly perfect, you know, every single game in order to give this chance, you know, this team the best chance to win. So I don't know how sustainable that is, especially now that they're having bullpen days every 5 games. I don't know what that means in terms of the longevity of the bullpen over the rest of the season. And as I've said, I think that at the trade deadline, we're going to see a bullpen piece added, and that'll be about it. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I think that's where we've been at and where we're going to continue to be at. And if you look at the standings, yes, they are 2.5 games out of that 3rd wild card spot right now. And if they managed to get in there, who are they facing? They're facing Seattle at this point.
They're
right?
dead.
They're facing Seattle. And
what a fun 1-0 game that will be for us all to watch.
Right? So like that's where this team is at. And I said it on Twitter after Friday's loss. I said, look at it this way. Every loss moves this team one step closer to getting rid of Ross Atkins. And I'm not saying that it will happen during the season, but this season has to go poorly if there's going to be major changes. And, being middling and squeaking into a playoff spot and probably getting bounced in embarrassing fashion again, I'm just going off of recent history, I think keeps everything intact, and I think nothing changes.
On a positive, though, this team...
That wasn't positive?
On a positive, this team managed to avoid becoming the worst team in baseball history when it comes to not scoring in the first inning, just narrowly by
that. They were all asking for the ball. That was so pretty funny.
That was funny, yeah.
Okay. So
sorry to
we're
interrupt.
we're in the 10th inning here, folks, and that's why this, again, if you're watching this tomorrow, which will be Monday, you'll be like, this whole beginning has been very weird. But
if they lose, they'll be like, why were they so chipper for the first 20? Yeah.
Okay, so they did manage to avoid that first inning record that was set, I think it was back in 1932 by the Boston Bees, back when people went, hey, see? So, good news there for the Toronto Blue Jays, who were at 30, which is a franchise record of not scoring in the first. Joel, little victories at this point, right, buddy?
Really? I don't know. I don't know about little victories at this point when you're competing with like the Boston Bees. Hey, I got to find out that the Boston Bees were a team. So,
Me
it
too.
was
Had
kind of
no
like, I
idea.
guess that's a small victory, a little bit of history that I got that there was actually another franchise in Boston. This was what would become the Braves. I don't even know what team this was, what third string Boston team this was in the 30s, but no little victories. You shouldn't be competing with like futility numbers from the Great Depression. That's not what we should be doing right now. So that was a hell of a thing. That was a hell of a thing in this day and age to and it's a speaking point to that top 3-4 guys in your lineup. Are they prepared to attack the starting pitcher that they're facing any given day? And in the first inning, the ineptitude that we saw over the course of 30 days was historic. And
It's supposed to be
so
the
I
inning
don't
where
know.
you can get to a guy. It's supposed to be the inning, like
Yes,
that's
it's
what
you
you're facing a
built
top of the rotation arm. That's the inning you can get to him, and we
the
couldn't get to him ever.
the only inning that you can predict what your lineup is going to be. We for 30 games of the season could not produce in that situation. And then, weirdly enough, the second inning we're like the best team in baseball.
Number one. Yeah, we are.
Really?
Right? What
That's
is that?
insane.
I don't even understand how that
That's
can
crazy.
be, how you can be so out to lunch 30 games in a row, but then equivalently in that second inning, there you are. And so it's just like after 15 games, don't you just take the guys who would be up in the second inning and put them up in the first inning? Like at what point do you just do that? Right? Like
Yeah,
we could have bounced
Most of
this
our
streak
innings
a long
must be
time ago.
most of our innings must be near the bottom, where it's like we're the worst in the first, we're the best in the second, and then we're like second, third, fourth worst.
The worst 3rd through 9. Yeah.
Like
Well,
the
think of who-
second is the blip. The first is more reality.
But in the second, who is that that's going up there? You're talking about what? IKF, Vogelbach eventually, Justin Turner, like the vets we brought in, and I guess Kirk, Varsho for a while because he carried us. I'm
Snyder
thinking
for a
that
while, Jansen
like
for a while. Like all of
exactly.
the guys who were actually doing something were sitting below the 5 spot in the lineup,
Yeah.
right? That's where all the heat was coming.
And now they're
And
not.
one thing I will say is, you know what? They finally did something. Was it too long? Did it take too long for them to make a change that was apparent to everyone wasn't working? I mean, we just talked about this streak. It's crazy. So, Jeff, what was your thoughts on number one, them finally calling Spencer Horwitz up, but also on the fact that John Schneider came out and said that he's actually going to play almost every day. They're going to give him an opportunity to kind of prove that he's a major league player and give him some runway. And we saw that game one, his debut, they put him in the 2-hole, and then today hitting leadoff. And I mean, he was a big part of breaking that first inning streak, right? Like instead of against Medina giving in and just swinging away at a guy who's struggling to hit the strike zone, he takes his walk. He went up with a plan and he wound up scoring. So what is your thoughts on Spencer Horwitz? How much can you see him actually contributing? And we'll get into Kevin Biggio, but let's start with Spencer.
Well, I think it should have been about a month ago. This should have happened to me. He's the one player in AAA that I thought should have been here from the beginning. I've never, okay, I want to say never, but I haven't as much confidence in. I just goes to Bigio than since he was a rookie, basically. Like he's decent defensively, he does a thing here and there. But I had a guy on X tell me that that we're replacing Bigio with a lesser known fill-in player who's the lesser of a player than Bigio. And I thought it was the most ridiculous thing to me because the guy can hit. He can hit. And that's what we need. I don't mind giving up a little bit of defense because, Spencer's now playing second, which he's done, 86 innings in his life, So he's being put in a position where you think you're going to suffer a bit defensively, which has been one of our calling cards so far, but you're doing it in terms of getting more offense. And he will be more offense than Bigio was. He's also a left-hander. He hit a single in the first inning today. That's what you want your leadoff guy to do. The only thing Spencer doesn't do is he doesn't run really fast. So I don't think he's a pure leadoff guy. I'd have him more of like a second. I'd bat him second and try and get something with more speed on top. But anyway, But I think it's a good move.
IKF, by the way, it is now 6-3 for the Blue Jays. IKF hits a double to clear the bases loaded situation there. And I think
love
that's
the
another
IKF,
reason
man.
why it's why I think Biggio was expendable, is that IKF was a redundancy, and a redundancy defensively, yes, but also a guy who can hit or has this season.
No,
So
IKF, I've been saying all season that he's going to be one of those guys. People hated the signing. I had one guy call it catastrophic, that his astronomical salary was going to weigh down our whole team and whatnot. Well, look what he's done. He's played stellar defense. He's hitting. He's not going to have like the highest OPS or anything, but he's getting on base and he's getting key hits. Like he got us RBI earlier today, and now he's cleared the bases again. Like I think he's a highly underrated guy as to why we're hitting as much as we are. If we didn't have him, how would we be doing? So you're right. He's now solidified third base. That's kind of what he's going to do, and throw in Ernie Clement once in a while, right? But now he's got your third base settled. If Horwitz does well, you get your second base settled. I think you're looking at more settling guys into roles, because I think they've realized this super utility thing that Bigio had especially doesn't work when you have like 5 of them. You just need 1 or 2 of them. And everybody else should be on my second base, on third base. And I think that's what it did. Honestly, I'm glad Bigio's gone. I am. I like him. He's a nice guy. Nice guys don't win championships, especially when they're hitting 200. So, I think you can't do anything but be better with Spencer Horwitz as opposed to Bigio in the lineup.
now the truth is, Kevin Biggio has been hyped up within this organization for years because he is part of the Bloodlines era, if you will, along with Vladdy and Bo. They came up together in Double A and won that 2018 championship with New Hampshire. And really, he, at this point, was the number 26, number 25, number 24 man in this lineup. So Juan, when you look at a guy who is the back end of the roster and you're in an offensive slump, despite his tenure and despite the fact that he had 5+ years, and obviously they DFA'd him, which basically means that he said, whoa, I'm a big leaguer somewhere. I've got my tenure here. I've played 5+ years. So he had the right to turn it down and hit the open market. Can you see someone going out there and grabbing Kevin Biggio off the waiver wire, that like 29 years old, a guy who can play everywhere, and despite his back, do you think he still has the opportunity to play Major League Baseball somewhere?
Yeah, for sure. I think he offers enough versatility that somebody like the Marlins or even the White Sox will go pick him up, let him play full time, and hope he hits his way into a trade situation where they can bring back a fringe top 100 prospect into their organization for a 0 risk signing. He's clearly had enough years of service to warrant potential trade value if he can hit for 2 months. It's not going to bring back anything spectacular, but he'll find his way on a roster somewhere, I think.
And I think that that's one of the things with Kevin, is that he had 6 at-bats in his last 10 games. It's pretty tough to stay sharp and stay ready for offensive production when you're never given an at-bat. Now, the hope is, listen, it's not like Kevin Biggio wasn't given rope. He was given every opportunity by this organization to succeed. And Joel, I know you've spoke about this before, right? Like John Schneider had his back almost to a fault. Do you, obviously no one here begrudges Kevin Biggio or wishes him bad luck anywhere, obviously. But do you think that this is going to affect the team in only positive ways, giving opportunities to some of these other guys?
I would hope so. Spencer obviously deserves it with what he's been doing. Like it's a couple of it's that difference between the players that have that pedigree and the difference between the ones that have to prove it for that extra year or so. The David Schneiders, Sport Horwitz now 27, nearly, these guys have to prove it year after year after year to get the same look that, like you said, a bloodline gets you. I was smiling pretty crazy because Kikuchi ran over Soderstrom. This is a weird play that's going to be like talked about for. He's sitting on the sidelines and he literally ran over the first baseman who's going to make a play, and they called out Schneider. So that was really quite strange. I haven't seen that one.
Weird.
But it's I'm gonna, an interesting point to all this would be, is it a good thing? Yeah, but the fact that we weren't able to flip Kevin Biggio for something, the fact that we weren't able to, Santiago Espinal got shipped out, you got something in return there, but the fact that you weren't able to take this piece who got 5 years of tenure with this team, and at the end of the day was walking out the door really for no return, that I just find that kind of strange because, like, does he find a place? Does he find a home? I'm scared that he finds a home in Tampa. I think we're all afraid that he finds a home in Tampa and somehow, he's hitting 280.
Tells him like, you're holding your thumb wrong, and he goes, holy.
Yeah, exactly. Do you ever think of overlapping your pinky? Exactly, Sean.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And then we're looking at a completely different player. There's lots of opportunities. Houston is a home for him, just for, once again, bloodline purposes, right? Why not bring him? His dad's right there. I'm sure his dad's whispering into the ears of whoever needs to be whispered to say, "Hey, give my son a shot." Why not? But
there's a hole at first base in Houston that is very glaring right now, so it's possible.
And like on top of that, when we finally do make the shift to robot umpires, what is Kevin Biggio worth then with his chase rate? Right? What's he worth when counts are always in his favor based on that eye? Suddenly the 1-2s where he's turning around, go, no, that's a ball. I can see that it's a ball. You can't. You're a 63-year-old umpire who can't see the zone, and I'm getting screwed over from this. Who does he become in the future era of the game when that strike zone is something like very definite? So I think he's got a. I don't think he's done yet.
I don't think he's done yet either. This is Long Toss episode 307. Thank you to all of you that are following along live right now. The Blue Jays currently up 6-3, bases loaded again in the top of the 10th. So fingers crossed that this is a series win. Apologies to everyone watching this pre-recorded. Again, this is all going to settle out very quickly here. I'm Scott Belford, joined by my panelists, and what a panel it is. Baseball Jen, Sean Lacomber, Hey Kami, Joel LaFlamme, Jeff of 40 Men, and Juan Forno of the walk-off Mariners. So we were just talking Kevin Biggio, and he has generated, and Jen, I know we were at a game together, Taylor, my wife, and I, and you were watching the Jays win that game against the Baltimore Orioles there on Wednesday. And we were talking a lot. We were kind of giving everyone around us a little mini podcast, basically. And it came up numerous times that this front office doesn't develop talent from within. It's been their biggest Achilles heel. Kevin Biggio generated 7.4 wins above replacement with the Blue Jays in his career, making him one of the most productive big leaguers drafted by Jays' current front office, 167 overall in 2016. Bo Bichette has a 17.7 WAR since 2016, so he is far and above. Bichette is running away with the wins above replacement. Alek Manoah just slightly above, or tied with Kevin, I should say, at 7.4. Davis Schneider at 2.7. And that's the list. It's kind of wild to think that Kevin Biggio is the second best thing that this front office has produced.
An untradeable success story.
How long has this front office been in charge?
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
That's
9
tough.
years.
Well, there's no players in any other team, maybe, that they've drafted? I don't think so, right?
I mean, the thing that this team has done a lot of is traded some of its prospects. Not all of them. Most of them have not worked out. But that's also not a really great thing to be bragging about. We've traded all our prospects, but luckily we drafted them bad enough they never panned out. So, Jen, I'm curious your thoughts on Kevin Biggio, and then maybe we'll wrap this subject up.
I agree. I think he was given numerous opportunities to succeed. And I think we all know exactly what he is. He is a guy with a good eye at the plate, supposedly, although it didn't always look like he did. Who could go on little hot streaks, but that was about it. And his ceiling was not nearly as high as his floor was low, I think. So some in the fan base seem to be rewriting history a little bit in terms of what he was to the team and the value, and that the Jays did him dirty. This is a business. And you cannot complain about the lack of offense and then be sorry to see a guy who was not producing be DFA'd. You can't be. You can't have it both ways, right? So there it is. Those are my thoughts on Biggio. Good luck to him. But
Yeah.
he was a 29. He was 29. He is exactly who he is and is going to be. And I really don't know what people are so torn up about.
We have emotional fans. Toronto fans always latch on to what? John McDonald, Ryan Goins, guys like that, right? They played hard. They played, they love the game, the high baseball IQ. That's what it is. Toronto fans love the underdog. They love the Ty Domies on the Leafs, right? They love the guys who get into fights, guys who are scrappy, which is weird for this city. That's the one thing I've never understood, is why Toronto is the big fan of the scrappy guy, and they see Cavan as a scrappy guy. He's not. No.
I mean, so Benjamin in the chat just chimed in and he said, just came in. Why did they keep Vogelbach? And maybe that is something we'll tackle really quickly here. I'm going to start with saying these are some power stats that are going to make you pull at your collar and go, yikes. Paul DeJong has 11 home runs with the Chicago White Sox right now. That would be the lead for the Toronto Blue Jays. Kevin Pillar has as many home runs as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at 7 and more than George Springer and Bo Bichette. And this is all stuff without even bringing up Teoscar Hernandez, who will get everyone's head spinning. So Cavan Biggio has 2 home runs. Daniel Vogelbach also has, I think it's only 2, maybe it is 3 home runs. But either way, I think where this is going is that they see Vogelbach's ability to maybe run into one off the bench greater than Cavan Biggio. Like, we're pretty much drawing straws at this point. Jeff, do you have anything to add on why Vogelbach was kept?
That's exactly what it is. Because he actually has power potential to make a game-changing kid. He's done it before. He has the track record. So John Schneider obviously is a big fan of track records in their guys, which why it took so long to take Springer out of the leadoff spot and make the changes that he had to make. He's very loyal to people in the way they do things. And that's what Vogelbach is. I think you'll probably see a bit more Spencer Horwitz maybe playing DH as well. Vogelbach being used more as a bench piece. I think that's what's ideal, because I'd rather have with what we have in our lineup now, I'd rather have Schneider at second and Varsho on left. I personally think Kiermaier's trade fodder. So I think Vogelbach is literally just a left-handed power bat. That's what he is.
And quick correction, Vogelbach only has 1 home run, which, I mean, again, you're really drawing straws here. And I think it was just that Cavan Biggio is a little bit more redundant with the positions that Spencer Horwitz plays and just the rope that he had already been given.
Yeah.
And they're paying Vogelbach $2 million, whether they cut him loose or not. And I think that has maybe a little bit to do with it too, is that Cavan was the cheaper release.
And depending what happens, he's trade fodder too. That's the thing. Like if we tank it, Vogelbach goes in a trade for something. You can package a bunch of these like fringe guys on the team and get yourself something out of it. That's probably the other reason why. Or he's just keeping a spot open for Votto.
If you get rid of Vogelbach, all you've done is open up some DH at bats.
Yeah.
You're not giving them much runway, right? So you need to get rid of somebody who also plays defense, pretty much every day. And then it opens up DH at bats and second base, left field, that kind of stuff. So it just didn't open up enough runway for Horwitz to come up and get regular. There's no point in bringing him up unless you're going to play him.
Yep.
And opening up a 1 DH spot it's just not enough. They had to do more than that.
We have some certainty here. The Blue Jays did just pull off a victory, winning 6-4 in extra innings against the Oakland Athletics. They now have won, what is it? Nine. They're
closed it out?
9-4.
Who closed it out? Who was the pitcher of record there?
Oh, that is a
Yeah, because
great
Garcia
question.
pitched the ninth.
Cabrera, Genesis.
Are you serious?
Genesis
Yeah.
Cabrera.
Oh, little Sega Genesis.
Wow.
And by the way, Cabrera is a great example of a guy who was DFA'd by St. Louis last year, and then the Blue Jays grabbed him and they worked out a trade, which is exactly what will probably happen with Kevin Biggio. So now that we know that this team is 32-33, one game below 500, going into a series against the Milwaukee Brewers, the top team in the NL Central, I will ask you, Juan, when you look at this Toronto Blue Jays team and the fact that I know they're not burning down doors or anything like that, but they definitely have shown far more life, 9-4. Again, I'm well aware of these include 2 series with the Chicago White Sox, but they have kind of been more than any other time in the season taking care of business. They have a meat grinder in June. They literally play Baltimore, New York Yankees, again, Milwaukee, like the Red Sox a couple of times, the Guardians a couple of times. Can they go 500 in the month of June?
I mean, you hope so. Hearing those teams, I think that's probably best case scenario, so you can stay in it and stay in that wild card race. It was nice to see them split with Baltimore earlier in this week. I think after dropping the first 2, a lot of people were surprised that they didn't lose that series. And props to them for turning it around and then going and winning against Oakland. At the end of the day, entering the week, I think if you guys were told, you're going to split against Baltimore and you're going to take 2 out of 3 against Oakland, I think everybody on this panel would have been thrilled. I think everybody would have absolutely accepted that. So they just got to keep it up. A lot of people are turning around. Vladdy's hitting 295 now, and I know the power isn't where you guys want it to be, but they score 6 runs today, and it's a little bit more consistent than it had been. And then you're getting some youth energization. We're seeing it on the Seattle side as well with Ryan Bliss, and now you guys bring up Horwitz, and you avoid that first inning catastrophe that you guys were on the brink of realizing. So if 500 is going to be tough if you got to play Baltimore, New York, and Cleveland. Those are some really, really good teams, but I do think if they come out of that meat grinder of a stretch of a schedule at 500 or slightly better or right below, but still, 3 to 4 games out of a wild card spot, you turn the calendar to July and you look to add, you look to get better, and you look to sneak in, because once you sneak in, you just need 3 guys to have the starts of their life to put you into the next round, right? So you got to hope for 500. I think they're probably going to come up a little bit short, but I hope so, because I love getting to play the Blue Jays in the playoffs personally.
Well, it's interesting because it's interesting because the Blue Jays core hitters are more or less getting it done lately. Power aside, okay? So these are the last 30 games. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hitting 364 with an on base of 447, a slug of 505, and a weighted runs created plus of 177. That's 8th in all of Major League Baseball, by the way. Bo Bichette, not quite as eye-popping in numbers, 298 batting average, 336 on base, 442 slug, and a 123 weighted runs created plus. Sean, how are you feeling about the top of this order? I know we kind of started this show with talking about first inning streak that we just narrowly avoided. So there have been problems at the top of the order. Are you feeling more confident in as we're going into later June?
Emblematic of those problems is like Spencer Horwitz comes up and is immediately inserted into the 2-hole, right? Like, you're not insulating him at all. You're just like, let's see what happens. Like, Danny Jansen he's a top of the order bat now. Davis Schneider has been the lead. They had to. Springer just slowed down. So I feel good about Vladdy and Bo. They seem to be hitting, like you guys said, not for power, but Davis Schneider's coming back down to earth a little bit. People get a book on him, but I mean, I guess I feel okay. I mean, I guess I'm a big Danny Jansen fan, so I'm just like, yeah, throw him up at the top. That's fine, you know.
Mhm.
Like I feel okay with Davis Schneider, Danny Jansen, Vladdy, and Bo. There's just no cleanup guy there. You know, there's
And
no.
there hasn't been for like 18 months. We've gone without a
We just
cleanup
don't
hitter.
have an internal cleanup hitter. You know, I mean, everybody knows the reason. We kind of panicked after that. We just weirdly panicked after that Seattle series, right? Is like,
Mhm.
because it was like, okay, defense. And it's like, no, that wasn't a defense issue. That was just a weird 1 in a million play. And I'm not saying they based it all on that one play, but it just seemed like, you know, they panicked. So for a front office that's like, no, we're all about process and, you know, we detach ourselves from emotions, but they don't. They make emotional decisions, they overreact, and they over prioritize things that don't matter based on recent events in their own team's history. They do just what everybody else does. You know, that's why it's hard to be a GM, because you have to be able to see into the future and say that guy looked good, but next year he won't, or that guy didn't look good, but next year he will, you know, like that's
Mhm.
why it's hard to be in a front office. Because I mean, otherwise we could all do it. We could say that guy looks good and he always will, you know. But yeah, Atkins just, I mean, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, just no cleanup hitter. That's the problem, as everybody knows.
So going to chat, it's interesting. Dulcimeris brings up the Jays are 500 against the Orioles. They're 3-3. It hasn't looked pretty. This is the thing, is that the Blue Jays are winning and they're getting the W, and maybe it doesn't feel as satisfying because they're doing it in the fashion that they're doing it, but a win is a win. Michael Borland says Jays are 1 game under 500 versus AL East team, so that's improved over last year. 500 against the Yankees, Michael Borland says. And yeah, they're doing what they got to do against AL East teams. So I have a question for you, Joel, because I wonder about the way talent has developed within this organization. I've got a couple of examples, and honestly, there's no right or wrong answer to this because it even worked out today with Horwitz in the leadoff spot. But we watched Addison Barger get called up and then stuck into left field for the first time ever in his entire career. He'd never played left field as a professional baseball player, gets called up to the bigs. Boom, kid, you're in left. Spencer Horwitz, this is day two back up at the big leagues and his first stint this season. And they put him in the leadoff spot. Again, I would say it worked out today. He had a couple hits. He had a walk. He looked good. Scored a run. How would you personally go about developing a guy? Do you think that rushing them in like this is a bad thing? Or do you think you kind of got to see what they do in these big moments when you throw something at them that maybe is a little out of the ordinary?
It just seems strange that you've got these like people who've been around for so long and they've been playing baseball for so long, and then they come up to the majors and they're like, "We're gonna have you do something completely different." And you're like, "What was the 8 years of development for if I have to do something completely different when I get here?" Right? It's that's rather strange to me that like those two examples and the example earlier of the war leaders. You know, the fact that our two war leaders are on the like where's Danny and Vladdy, and those are Anthopoulos picks, and those are your probably your war leaders amongst the entire group, and those are from picks in 14 and 15. That's a decade ago. Anthopoulos is still the best GM on this team, and he hasn't been here for 9 years. So it's just like he's still getting the most production out of these players. I think Moreno's at like 5.5. He'd be on that list at 600 at bats, right? Like on another team doing that. Yeah, it's I don't like the fact that you are sitting there and you're being developed. And when you come up, like Sean said, you're being thrown into a spot, whether it's lineup wise or Addison Barger, it's a different position. And it's just like David Schneider, all of these guys are fundamentally utility players, right? Like we're just like all we have coming up now are utility players because we got no defined position for them. And all the numbers against like teams and stuff right now, I don't take any stock into the fact that we're 500 against Baltimore. Baltimore is a way better team than us. That's a 3-3 is you play those 3-3 again over and over. It's going to be 5-1, 6-0 more often than it's 3-3, right? Like we're talking about winning one-run games, and over here they're beating us by 10. Right? We're winning games that are 50% flips of a coin, whereas there's no way we turn the losses into wins, right? Like the fact that we won 2 out of 3 against Oakland, against a team that makes the Moneyball A's look like the New York Yankees. The fact that we go 2 and 3 against that and we win it in extra innings, that's just like, I don't take those wins at all for anything, because it's just, it's a flip of a coin against a team that's literally a throwaway team that doesn't even have a home.
Against
So
the
it's just
Sacramento Bees.
yeah, right. Like we're
Bees
this
again?
hot streak that we've gone on against. It's like 3 of those wins are against Chicago, right? You know, and so I hate that we got hot. Kind of. This is part of me that's mad that we got hot. God damn it! Why can we just fall on our face for another 3 weeks and get these assholes out of here instead of getting the stupid hope in our heads? Because I don't believe it's real hope. I don't see this team turning it around. Like, who are we? We don't hit home runs. We're going to get out homered by 80% of the league. We're not fast. We're going to get outrun by the other 80% of the league. So it's like we don't have an identity on how to score runs. It's kind of a fluky rolling of the dice of the lineup every single day. It's just like these things don't scream to me a team that's going to, they're just going to find it. Where are you going to find it? We're still, it seems rather flukish of a win streak. The only thing we have is that starting rotation. And then now it's turned to the point where that 5th spot may be as costly to us as the first 4 spots are advantageous for us, right? We're so good in those first 4 spots. We have 4 amazing pitchers, but now Manoah's out. It's going to be this opener situation, which is going to further tax our bullpen. So it's just like, damn, great time for a hot streak. Is kind of wish we maybe lost a few more, to be honest. Everybody's going to hate me. I'm sorry for that, but
no, and Jen, I will go to you to kind of get your thoughts on this as well. But no, Joel, you are nailing the nail on the head here pretty well in some aspects. I know Michael Borland says, "Come on, Joel. We don't have a lot to hang our hats on here this year." Tuesday with Johnny goes, classic Joel rant. And Mark Ryan goes, yes, indeed. Michael Borland comes back with the run differential is a real problem. Joel is right. We need something to cheer for, though, which I totally get. So, Jen, when we started this with talking, is there a one size fits all for development? I think the answer is obviously no. Obviously, it made more sense to go to Spencer Horwitz in the leadoff spot, a guy who has a .450 on base percentage in Buffalo and led off with the Bisons for most of this season. So it's not like he doesn't have that experience. Whereas Addison Barger putting in left field there when he'd never played was a little weird. Where are you at when you look at this player development? Because that's something that we've kind of been talking about. And I don't want to harp on it too much, so we will move on after you kind of have your piece here. But it is a little bit eye-opening to realize that this front office, who's been in charge for 9 years, the second top wins above replacement player was Kevin Biggio. Can this be fixed? Can this be addressed without clearing out this front office?
I doubt it, but I don't know what their scouting department looks like. I don't know what it is that they're looking for in players, how they're evaluating players. I don't know what they're doing with said players once they bring them into the organization. I don't know what that process looks like. I don't know. I think the problem is that they have no plan, right? They've drafted players, as we've said, that are sort of these utility guys because they don't actually have a long-term vision or a long-term plan. So they add whatever players they can via trade or free agency, and now they're trying to fill in the pieces with these utility guys. And we've had you play this position in the minors, but we're going to throw you here, throw you there, because that's where we need somebody. And, you know, I'll give John Schneider this. He's doing what he can with that lineup card to try to generate offense out of these players, right? He can only work with what he's been given. But that's what I see as being the problem, is that I don't think that this front office has had a long range goal. When they came in, when Mark Shapiro came in, right, he chastised Alex Anthopoulos for clearing the farm system and promised to not only restock it, but to make it something that was, going to continue to flourish year over year over year. And we haven't seen that, right? That hasn't actually happened. How do you chastise the one and then not manage to do it yourself? You've had 9 seasons to do better. So that's what I think the problem is. I don't think this front office has had a plan. I think they change on a dime. We're a hitter, we're an offense first team. Now we're a defense first team. That's not working. We don't know what to do. That's where I think they're at.
You can build
I
a
couldn't
sustainable
agree.
loser. A sustainable loser. That's their model.
Can we keep these losers together? Honestly, Jen, I think that's the biggest frustration within this fan base in general. And I know, Joel, you and I talked about it on Friday. They're just kind of giving the American Beauty plastic bag in the wind analogy of like, that's what it feels like right now with this front office. Like there's no real direction. I mean, sure, it's beautiful in the wind, but there's no real like getting it done right now. And Jeff, we'll talk pitching, because we had some pretty major news land over the weekend here that Alek Manoah is officially sidelined for the rest of the season. And honestly, probably well into next year.
Yeah, it depends on the surgery. I think they haven't really let it out what it's going to be like. I think the two is either Tommy John.
June 17th, he goes under the knife for UCL surgery, and they're going to decide once they're in it whether it's going to be a full Tommy John, which is anywhere between 12 to 18 months, or whether it's still 8 to 12 months, and still he'll miss probably the first little bit of next year in the best case scenario.
Yeah, it's like bracing the UCL, I think, is the other difference that they're doing. But yeah, it's
Tommy John is way too fun of a name for that procedure. Like it's just,
if it was Johnny Tom, would it have worked as well?
it sounds like an Adidas line of clothing. You know what I mean? Like it's you're out for 18 months and it's called Tommy John. Like it just sounds like a fun uncle, They got to get rid of it. Like Lou Gehrig's, when they got rid of Lou Gehrig's disease, went with ALS.
Yes.
We got to get rid of Tommy John and just call it UCL.
Yeah.
But is this, sorry.
I disagree. I got the story rights to that movie. So
Joel's like, don't you change a damn thing.
I got it for 2 more years. Keep it for 2 more years. It's literally about it. 2 more years. And then after that, UCL surgery. Sure.
Okay.
So Bowden Francis had a really big performance today. I mean, he looked really good. I know Yariel Rodriguez is in Buffalo. I'm actually going to be covering the Bisons on Tuesday for his rehab start there. So we'll report back on how he looks and where he's at. But he is probably going to get the bump up to the big league club again here within the week, I would say. Jen, when you look at this pitching staff, I mean, obviously you've got Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, for the next few years. So Kevin Gausman, for everyone wondering, has 2 more years after this on his contract. So his contract's up at the end of 2026. Jose Barrios has 4 more years, but he can opt out after 2. Chris Bassett down to 1 year. Yusei Kikuchi, free agent at the end of the year. Ricky Tiedemann probably is going to need to build his innings up before even contemplating having him start 2025 with this team. They're going to need to go out and get a starting pitcher.
They needed to get one before the season.
Mhm.
Like, I understand they brought in Rodriguez, and that was probably a good signing, but no matter what, he was going to be on an innings limit. So he was not somebody who was going to take the mound as a starter every 5th day. And I've been screaming this for how long have I been screaming this? That they could not rely on Manoah to be anything this season. And I mean that respectfully to Alek Manoah. But after the season that he had last year and having absolutely no idea what was going on physically, mentally, having no idea whether or not he would bounce back or anything, right? They really needed to plan and to put someone in place for that contingency. And I think that was a huge failure. And now here they are. And so exactly, they absolutely have to go out and get somebody, but that should have already been done. So
Well, and this does kind of go all the way back to player development again. It is a real bummer right now that the AAA options just really aren't there. Now, listen, they do have some very talented prospects that are up and coming. I know that right now, Adam Mako, Canadian kid, he's in AA right now. He won pitcher of the week in AA last week. He's killing it. Bringing him up also because he's joining me tomorrow, so you can watch. Everyone in Patreon's going to have that access tomorrow, and then I should have that out sometime this week.
I knew there was some capitalist reason for you doing that.
Some very capitalist reason for me to bring this up. Exactly.
Scott, I was gonna ask you, Scott, and anybody on the panel, do you think that like his UCL injury is it linked to what happened last year? Like where all of a sudden his slider had no bite, all of it, his secondary stuff had, they could kill him on his secondary stuff. He had to be really fine with his fastball. Like, do you think it was a slow process where like he was Alek Manoah, he was full strength, and then something happened with the elbow, he takes a step down, and then it slowly just erodes? Like, I don't know.
I think last year he was the first time he ever experienced adversity, because it's like a lot of these kids come in, they're all winners, right? And then they come into the minor leagues and they start losing. Or with Manoah, he comes up, does well, but he starts losing. And I don't think he knew how to handle it. Personally, I think he's just such an exuberant personality. I don't think he was able to really corral himself in. And I think if he was hurt, it would have been a little bit different. I think this was an attitude thing. He couldn't control anything because he pitched for quite a while, through spring training and whatnot. He had a little bit of a downturn. Then he was pitching in the minors and they brought him up and he was all right. I mean, it was underlying anyway. And this all goes back to the big question that a lot of people have asked this season is, why is there almost $1 billion worth of pitchers on the disabled list, right, on the IL right now? They throw too hard. They always have. They're the way it's going. The commodity of baseball players baseball players are now more of a commodity than they've ever been. I think. I don't think you look at them as people as much as you would have 20 years ago. Right. That's why if a guy comes in, blows out his arm throwing 100, they'll bring another kid up who can throw 100, and they'll just bring another kid up who can throw 100. And that's all they want. They want kids who can throw hard. That's why there's no longer really like Kevin Gausman having a complete game shutout. Everybody's like, my God, that was amazing. When I was younger, I saw that happen a lot. Complete games actually happened a lot. And that doesn't anymore because they throw too hard. They put too much stress on their arms. How many kids have gone through Tommy John surgery before they even reached the majors? Like, I'd say probably approaching half at this point. They have them sometimes when they're in college. And now we've got Berriera out because of injury, Tiedemann out because of injury. And these are both hard throwing guys. Who lasts longer? Guys who throw maybe 94, 95, not 98, 99. And I think that's the biggest problem with development, not just our team for pitchers, but in general. They're throwing too hard and they get great spin rates. Cool. But if you're only going to throw 3 years and then you've blown your arm out, then great. That's it. Nate Pearson, another hard thrower. He couldn't go starter because he threw too hard.
Get the most money. And if you're a 13-year-old kid, nobody's coming to your ball diamond to watch you pitch unless you throw a certain miles per hour. So
don't even get me started about those road teams they have in the States where kids throw all year long.
The kids don't have a choice. It's not like these kids are throwing too hard. It's like these kids are having to throw too hard to get noticed.
And not just that, they're making them throw like breaking pitches. And when they're still developing, you should not be throwing curve balls and things like that when you're 16. I know that for a fact because when I was 18 and I was trying to impress a scout, I wanted to throw the best fastball I could and I blew my arm out. Like, I know what it's like. I've been there. I've been on that mound when you felt your arm just kind of go, bleh, and you're like, great. So a lot of these guys, it's almost like an initiation to get into the pitching fraternity of baseball now is to get Tommy John. Because then your arm is going to be double strong and you might last a little bit longer. But that's why our pitching is so thin.
It is. Injuries is a big reason why this depth pitching hasn't worked out. The Benjamin DeCuna says they probably thought that between Manoah, Rodriguez, Francis, and Mitch White, one of them would take the lead, and they absolutely did, and it just didn't work out that way. I also will say that for everyone comparing Tiedemann to Pearson, let's just put the brakes on that for a second, because Ricky Tiedemann is 21. So there are examples of young guys who throw fire, who deal with inflammation and deal with being shut down and stuff, and figure out their body by the time they're 23 or 24. Let's not write Ricky off here. All that should be taken from this, especially from the front office, is you can't bet on Ricky Tiedemann to be a starting pitcher in 2025. Right? You're going to need to continue to build up his innings with how little he has pitched over the last 2 years. And even if he is healthy next year, you're going to probably need to pull the same sort of thing you're trying to do with Yariel Rodriguez this year, which is limit his innings, still give him experience in the starting pitching, and then reel that back into a long man back end of the bullpen type of role. So, I mean,
Scott,
yes.
can I be honest with you guys? And can I just ask, like, openly, do you guys actually feel that the Blue Jays organization can develop Tiedemann into a legitimate 1 or 2 starter in a rotation? Because I just don't have any faith in that organization in developing arms.
I think when they meet the major leagues, they do. Pete Walker, I think, is a godsend to this team. If we didn't have Pete Walker the last few years, can you imagine how bad we actually would have been? You know what I mean? But developing wise, I mean, when Shohei came, didn't he say, like, when he went down to the Dunedin, he was like, I can't believe these facilities and all this stuff we have to develop people. So we have the facilities, but that's the one thing I don't know. And I think Jen alluded to it earlier. Is like, we don't know what they're planning on doing with these guys. They get them, they have the state of the art facility, but what are they doing with them when they get there? We don't know that. Right. So I'm kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if their development isn't
going on their track record. It's pretty tough to bet on them being able to turn out Ricky Tiedemann as a number 1 starter. I hope that they can, for this organization's sake, to have a front end of the rotation guy that you're not paying a bunch of money to would be incredible for this team moving forward.
I got like a million points to play on. Can I try to like cover some of
Joel,
Sean's and Juan's and
floor's all yours?
Okay, because it's such a weird situation with the pursuit of the Tommy Johns, right? We're trying to do something with pitchers, which is impossible. Okay, with every other sport that we do, the greatest athletes are doing something that is attainable by the human body. Throwing a pitch 100 miles an hour for the average human is impossible. The ulnar collateral ligament explodes at 38 pounds per square inch. Throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball is about 45 pounds per square inch. So it's a mathematical, physical inability that we have to do this. So everyone who does do it, Paul Skeens out there that are doing it, the Nolan Ryans that do it, they're bearded women. These are oddities to humanity. These are things that don't normally exist, right? They're circus acts. So to hope that to chase after it as a Atkins and Shapiro, like pursuing pitching so much, you're pursuing something that in this day and age is already limited, because the fact that pitchers may just come across an injury that they can't overcome, right? Whereas your pursuit should probably be much more when it comes to players that are on the field. And then luckily I'll give them credit, they brought in arms that have stayed the test of time, right? And
it has been one thing this front office has done well.
Right? So I'll give them credit to that, to find arms that go. Chris Bassett can pitch. Kim Gosman can pitch. Barrios is a workhorse pitcher, right? But the pursuit of high-end velocity is insane. And the fact that we have a guy like Pete Walker who teaches an old school fashion style of pitching, locate your fastball, with Kikuchi work backwards. He's a horse whisperer for lefties, which is why I think Tiedemann is going to be a good place for Walker to have a young pupil to be able to bring up in all of this. But at the same time, we're there with that expenditure of money towards that new facility. And that's all technology. That's all slow cameras. That's all finding a way to maximize your performance. And maximizing your performance gets to a point where your body explodes and you can't literally do what you're meant to do. You're taken from being at the top of your craft to you can't throw the ball anymore. So it's this really heartbreaking situation of where are we today in this day and age, because their injuries are far too high. And I'll go to I'll just talk about the strike zone box and our pursuit of the perfect strike zone, right? That we want to automate it. We want to get robots to do all of that stuff. You're never going to get a Greg Maddux again. You're never going to get a catfish hunter who throws slower and works the umpire's strike zone on that day. Baseball was always an umpire strike zone on the day, right? And the umpire would give both teams that strike zone, right? That's not what we want. We want a unified singular strike zone that's absolutely perfect. Well, that will never allow for a pitcher who throws 91 to work off the zone and find another inch here, another inch there, expand the zone and work like an iron horse pitcher would, right? Like we're not going to get the Burleys anymore. We're not going to get the Greinke's anymore because pursuing that style of pitching just isn't going to ever show up on the radar for drafting. And we're narrowing that strike zone to make it perfect so that those types of pitchers, they can't do what they did. They can't work to an expanded strike zone the way they did in the 70s. If you want that, then you've got to get rid of that strike zone and you've got to worry. You just got to accept the game as being human. But we don't want it that way. We want it so perfect that, and I think that this is one of the causes to arms blowing out is that
I think the automated
such
strike zone, there's going to be people that I think with the automated strike zone, there's going to be people that are pitchers that are able to manipulate it where it's like, I have a curveball that can find the back and the top of the strike zone, an unhittable pitch that is a curveball that would never normally be called a strike by an umpire, but it's catching the back and the very top of that strike zone. And then fans will be like, that's not we'll start to hate the robot. Like we're humans, all we want to do is complain. We're not going to be like, oh, that's a strike. We're going to be like, that's not a strike, you stupid robot. Like we're going to complain about the automated strike zone. Maybe not as much as the humans, but we're going to complain.
I can't wait to complain about the automated strike zone.
They got to move it up an inch. When is Manfred going to move it an inch?
Maybe Kevin Bigio with his great eye can become an umpire.
That's right. Perfect. He is the actual automated strike zone system. Kevin Biggio is now in charge.
Angel Hernandez.
I would love to see that story though, that transition, Jen, of his comeback story becoming like the best umpire in baseball. It won't happen because it'll be automated before he can do it, but I believe Kevin Biggio could be the best umpire.
Okay, so we'll talk Mark Shapiro really quickly here before we move in and get into the Mariners for a little bit. This is episode 307 of Long Toss. Thank you all who are following along live currently with us on YouTube here. Feel free to hit that like button, and if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I'm Scott Belford. We have a panel of Juan Forno with the walk-off Mariners. We've got Jeff with the 40-40 men, Joel Flam, Hey Kami, Sean Lacomber, and Baseball Jen is with us. Sean, when you think about this front office, how much credit and how much of a thumbprint do you think Mark Shapiro has on this 2024 rendition of the Toronto Blue Jays? And do you think that after everything he has done for Rogers with fixing up the stadium, overseeing the $350 million renovation, do you think that it's solely Ross Atkins who's on the hot seat right now? Or do you think Shapiro has some blame to share and should also be concerned?
Well, I think there's a lot of parallels between the Leafs and the Blue Jays in this area where he's Shanahan, right? Where he thinks of Shapiro isn't like I know the best place to put a bar in the outfield. He thinks of himself as a baseball guy. So, and a baseball guy first. So when in my mind, if Atkins is making any moves, he's doing it through the lens of, is this going to get okayed by Shapiro? And a certain way that you have to run your organization to get it through Shapiro to the ownership. So he's definitely a part of it because Atkins isn't making any moves. Nobody in the Blue Jays is making any moves unless they know it's going to get Shapiro's stamp of approval and they know what that looks like and they know what that process and that player looks like. And so Shapiro maybe isn't necessarily overruling any moves Atkins has made, but they definitely know what that looks like, what the parameters of a Shapiro move look like. And so if you want to change, if you want any fundamental changes in how this team looks, Shapiro has to also go in the same way that Shanahan would have to also go if you wanted things to change with the Leafs.
Juan, Mark Shapiro, president of the Toronto Blue Jays, friend of the show.
Selfless plug.
He has obviously pleased Rogers. I mean, I know I was just at the stadium, Jen as well. You spend money there. Whether Mark Shapiro likes to think of himself as a baseball guy first or not, he does know where to put a bar in the outfield. Let me tell you. In a scenario where he's the president, he's been there 9 years. I mean, there's lots of ways to spin his success. I know he has done it himself many times, talking about their numerous playoff appearances. 4, by the way, Juan. Not sure if he's mentioned it or not. It's pretty rare to see a president get fired after a scenario like this. Can you see this even being a scenario, or do you think personally, primarily, this is Ross Atkins' job to lose?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as all of us are Canadians, we understand that Rogers is a business first, and the Toronto Blue Jays is no different as a subsection of their conglomerate that they have across Canada, right? If the Blue Jays are making money, he's not going anywhere. And it's going to come down to the fan base demanding success out of the team and a lack of support to change that at the end of the day. He's not going to, if he's making Rogers money, what do they care? Right? Of course they want a championship, but that's just gravy on top of all the boatloads of money that the Blue Jays are making them. And I don't know all the details and I don't know the financials, but based off of what everybody is saying, he's good at that. He's good at making sure they make money. You know, whether it's the expansion or the bars or whatever. He's just not going anywhere if he's making Rogers money. It's not happening. I think it's going to come down to the fan base. You know, the fan base is going to have to demand it. Otherwise, there's no reason to change. Why not? You know, we see it in Seattle all the time. They were touted as the most profitable organization last year. The Mariners were in the entire MLB, and we've demanded them to spend money. But why would they? Because we continue to support them. Attendance is up. Everything is good when it comes to the money. So why would they go out and spend that extra $40 million a year on a roster that is performing just enough to keep fans interested? So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that'd be wishful thinking. I do think at the end of the day, I know those two guys are a package deal, but you know, if Rogers goes to Shapiro and says, hey, it's either him or both of you, he's going to want to keep his job. So I don't think he's going anywhere.
Jen, anything to add? Do you think that there's any way that both Shapiro and Atkins is on the way out, or is this one only, and that's Ross?
I think Shapiro is relatively safe. I think that Rogers is extremely happy with how the renovations have gone. I think that, you know, to Juan's points, if they're making money, that's all that matters. This is strictly a business, right? This from an ownership point of view, this is strictly a business. And I'm not calling them cheap either. They have ponied up a lot of money for this roster. And, you know, for all the people complaining about all the money going into renovations, that simply isn't true. You can't knock ownership for the amount of money that they have actually thrown at this team. And I'm assuming that Shapiro has gotten that money out of them, right? You know, I think that communication there is pretty solid.
Do you think maybe we're overplaying how much credit Rogers would give Shapiro for the renovations? Like, if I gave somebody $25,000 to do my kitchen and then they did a great job of it, I wouldn't be like, you're the best. I'd be like, I gave you 25 grand. Of course it looks fantastic. You know what I mean?
I'm not talking about looks. I'm simply talking about bringing in a return, I guess. Yeah. Right.
I'm not, I didn't mean that directed at you. I just meant like, I don't know how much they're like, wow, Shapiro was the greatest for pulling this off.
No, I think
See, if the guy you had renovating your kitchen, Sean, was also making you a bunch of money on the side, maybe you would bring him back, right?
maybe that's true. Yeah. Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt.
Let's change gears here. Now we are at the hour 10-minute mark of the show, hour 15-minute mark of the show. Feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Of course, we really appreciate you, the grounds crew members. We do have a big show coming up on June 20th. It is going to be Baseball Town live at the Danforth Comedy Bar. We've got from TSN Scotty Mitchell coming down. We've got Keegan Matheson of MLB.com. We've got the one and only Caitlin McGrath of The Athletic rounding out the panel. And then we also have a roast battle between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Boston Red Sox. And those tickets are just going to cost you $22. The link I will throw into the comment section here. So if you are into a live baseball show, that is the one for you here in Toronto. But we're not done there. My good friend Juan Forno, we're going to be meeting in Seattle for the Jays and Mariners series, July 5, 6, 7. So July 6th, the Saturday night. We are running a Baseball Town Seattle version. We have as our guests Major League Baseball pitcher and former Toronto Blue Jay, currently in the Seattle Mariners bullpen, Taylor Sacedo, and double that with Kirby Sneed joining us. We've got some comics on the show. We're going to have a nice big round table where everyone is going to get the opportunity to ask their questions to these guys. So, yeah, Baseball Town, get in on it. Seattle and Toronto, June 20th in Toronto, July 6th in Seattle. Speaking Mariners, it is now time for you to shine here, Juan, as it is a Mariners minute. And, buddy, your boys did the exact same thing the Jays did, which was pull off a extra inning victory here today and salvaged the series against what has turned out to be, I think you can sing the praises of the Kansas City Royals. They're legit, aren't they, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say the Angels barely, narrowly just walked off on the Houston Astros, which we love to see in the wildest play I've ever seen in the history of ever. We thought the home run was robbed. The fan literally pulled it out of the player's glove, but it wasn't in the field of play, so it counts. And the guy that hit the home run almost ran past the runner at first base, but managed not to. So it was the weirdest ending. I can't wait for you guys to see that. Mariners, yeah, maintained our 5 game lead above Texas today, which is nice. Took 2 of 3 from Oakland, avoided Andres Munoz going on the IL stint with a play of the plate, which we love to see. The Mariners scored 7 runs in the first inning on Friday night, which I didn't even know was possible or legal. But they did it and still managed to lose, which was a fun start to the weekend for me. Luckily they ended on a high note and ended up 500 on the week. So I mean, we still got that 5 game lead. We'd like to see it continue to grow. We got 4 coming up against Chicago, and then we get head-to-head Texas on the weekend. Great opportunity to create some space before that rotation gets healthy, and I hope to see us 10 games up before we see any of Scherzer or DeGrom or any of these other guys, Bradford, that they have coming back off the IL and getting a little healthier for sure. That was my minute. I think I nailed it. It was like 62 seconds. Scott, you're muted, dude.
Yep.
Fail. Fired.
Big time fail. Thank you. I was trying to get my headphones back together there. No, the Royals have been a really good team, and for you guys to salvage that series with the Rangers starting to come out of it. I think the Rangers are going to be the one team in that division that you are going to need to be concerned about. I mean, the Astros just continue to get dealt pitching injuries, and I mean, thank goodness for Seattle, because you can pretty much eliminate Oakland and the Angels as well from really competing in that division. Whereas last year, man, there was a 4-way race pretty much between until the Angels eventually did fall out of it there, but like they even tried to bolster themselves at the deadline. So yeah.
I think it's going to be good for you guys too to see Texas lose, because that's going to be a wild card threat for sure for the Blue Jays to get in. Well, whether
Very
it's the
important.
Rangers, that's assuming the Mariners are going to win the division, which is a big
Yes.
presumptuous a point. But I think everybody on this panel would love to see Texas and Houston continue to falter for sure.
Does anyone else have anything to say about the Seattle Mariners before we move on to the London series?
I have one small thing, and it's a Canadian thing.
Yeah.
When did you guys get Samad Taylor? He's hitting, I mean, he's only been there 5 games, but he's hitting like 400 for you guys right now. Maybe,
Yeah,
who
we
knows?
actually he's in AAA, I believe, right now, but we traded for him from Kansas this offseason.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they DFA'd him and we gave up little to nothing, but we brought him in from Kansas City this offseason, and he's going to provide depth and speed for sure. He's played a few games up, and he's a good organizational depth piece.
If Capitalism Scott can step in here and say, Samad Taylor, friend of the show, everybody.
No, the reason I asked was because I pulled up Sportsnet and Mariners thing. It actually lists him as the team. I mean, it's only 5 games, but they never go as how many at bats you're supposed to have. But he's like batting leader, Samad Taylor, 400 batting average, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize he was there.
Yeah,
But
that's like 6 at bats probably.
I had one question. I've been wondering this for a while now. Calabrale, like he's a pretty decent power hitting catcher. How is he as a defensive catcher?
Yeah, so Cal Raleigh is actually the best power hitting catcher of the last 2 seasons, led the league for catchers and home runs. Defensively, he's very, very strong, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's something that gets overlooked because of his home runs and the clutch home runs that he's hit in his short and brief career. He's got a strong arm. His caught stealing percentage is actually pretty good. And the pitchers love him. I mean, you look at the starting rotation in Seattle and even like their 6th starter, Emerson Hancock, and he plays a big part in that. He calls the games. He's not getting pitch calls from the bench. And he doesn't allow much in the way of pass balls. He's a rock and he's a tough guy, and he's definitely somebody who we'd like to see here for a very long time for sure. Jeremy Pridham from the chat just said, hopefully Jays trade for Raleigh. It's never going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
The Mariners are
No.
not letting him go.
I'm just
I
saying,
want
he sounds-
Raleigh just so we don't have to deal with him. He's like,
Yeah.
outside of Ryan Mountcastle, I can't think of a bigger Toronto Blue Jays killer.
I
than Cal
can't wait
Raleigh.
to I can't wait to continue seeing him punish you guys for sure.
I got a random one. Why, to me, it's shocking that you have George Kirby, the greatest control pitcher in all of the game, and he also probably possesses the greatest knuckleball. Is there, I don't know how they would do it, but is there some way that George Kirby can be a starting pitcher and then like for 2 innings, like 2 days after he starts, he's there as like a knuckleball potential reliever? Just for like, just he doesn't have to warm up, he doesn't have to get the gas going. He's just gonna come out and throw the knuckleball. But can he be like the first ever like pitcher who throws like 2 completely different styles? Because I know internally he doesn't want to throw the knuckleball. He doesn't want to throw a pitch that could potentially be a ball. But he has such a great one. So I'm trying to, in my mind, create a way for him to be 2 people. And it's just like, we'll keep your control stats over here for your knuckleball. That won't be included into your walk rate, because I know that that's what probably slows him down from throwing that beautiful pitch.
I know it's a fun question, but fucking no, Joel. This is a guy that came into the season and we had Cy Young aspirations for. They're not going to do anything to risk that.
I know.
Obviously.
Yeah. Fun question. Absolutely not.
Yeah, George Kirby, man, that every time we talk about your starting rotation one, well, I say yours, like it's
I own
yours
it.
personally. Yeah,
I
that's
put it
right.
together.
No, but okay. Major League Baseball has worked hard this season and over the last couple seasons at growing the game. I know we watched the World Baseball Classic go down last year, and everyone was surprised at the viewership worldwide, right? Especially America, who just couldn't wait to get on their soapbox and yell about how nobody gives a shit about that tournament. But we just witnessed the Dodgers and the Padres open their season in South Korea, and now we have just watched this weekend the London series where Major League Baseball set up shop in London, England, and played professional regular season games with the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. Does this do anything for the big hardcore baseball fans? I know I enjoy watching it, and this isn't why they're doing this. This isn't for this panel. But Jen, I'm curious your thoughts on it in general. How do you feel about stuff like the London series? Do you enjoy it, even though the timing of the games get all messed up and stuff, and they're playing in South Korea and you got to watch it at 6 in the morning or whatever? Do you enjoy these out of America regular season games?
In short, no. I personally couldn't care less. I don't think it does much to grow the game, to be completely honest. I think it's kind of a cool novelty thing to do, that generates a lot of conversation amongst those who cover MLB. But I think once it's over and they're back in North America, I don't know that there's any lasting residual effects of it. Whereas I think something like, the World Baseball Classic, where you actually have teams, competing on behalf of their country. And, that I feel is the kind of thing that might grow the game, right? That's the kind of thing that I think can generate real excitement and sort of a sense of pride and wonderment in the game. But two professional teams playing 3 random games somewhere else and then leaving, I just don't think there's anything to it other than MLB generating way more talk and articles than necessary.
Sean, were you carving out time out of your day to make sure you caught the New York Mets play?
Oh yeah, I didn't want to. I knew every time somebody got a hit, they would get to first base and do like a tea thing,
Drinking tea.
Doing a tea and scones thing. I saw, what did they do? I mean, who did the thing where he got the home run and then slid like
Bryce Harper slid on his butt and then was yelling, "I love soccer! I love soccer!"
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mind it just because it's sort of like, what it is intended to show is like, we're an international game. Look, we can sell this out anywhere. We can take it to London and sell it out. I mean, I wouldn't mind betting you the stadium's filled with expats, right? It's not like, it's not like it would be like if you had like a cricket here, we'd be like, what are they doing out there? What are they? Why isn't he running to first now? Oh,
where did all these British people come from? Yeah.
So I would imagine it's mostly expats. It's not like a bunch of people in England that are like, wow, I love Major League Baseball and I'm from Birmingham and I'm going to drive in and watch it. But so it's people that were already, but yeah, it's a good way to sell some merch and, get into a new market. I mean, it's only dangerous if you can't fill the stadium. Right. I mean,
55,000. I'm looking at it right now. 55,074 people watch that game today.
So you got to be careful. The NFL does it too, right? They go out there and they do some random London games, and then we talk about, is there potential expansion? Could they expand? And none of that ever happens because it was just about selling merch on the day.
Juan, do you think that there is any potential for expansion within MLB? I know that when you look at the other professional sports and see they have 32 teams, you know darn well that Rob Manfred and the owners want that sweet payoff to get into the club. Can you see baseball expanding within the next few years?
Yeah, but I think the only international would be in North America. I could definitely see like a Mexico City team. I could see Montreal, Vancouver, BC. Obviously, there's a bunch of places in the US that are potential landing spots like Portland and Nashville and San Antonio. I do think they want to get to 32. I don't think it's going to be across international waters. The logistics are an absolute nightmare to make that work, and the travel is too hard on the players. It's just not realistic, in my opinion. That being said, I actually support these international series for different reasons, though. I love that it's going to make the attention towards the World Baseball Classic even better than it already is. So I love going out to these places like London. I think it was a lot of fun, whether, you know, it was expats or whoever was in the stands. It looked very full and it looked like the fans were having a really good time. The other thing that I really enjoyed seeing while watching the Phillies game, I call it the Phillies game because the Mets are trash, this morning, was how much fun the kids were having. Baseball is a game and it's a kid sport. You know, you hear it all the time. Griffey, the kid, and I think it's good for their community. I think it's good for baseball. With that being said, I don't think it's an expansion team. I do think it's a lot of clickbait and a lot of capitalism around it. But I like it for the kids. You know, it's a chance to get something that they don't normally get in a place where it's predominantly soccer. I like it. I don't see there being an expansion team across international waters, but I think it's cool. And I think Bryce Harper was the right guy to send. I think he's an exciting player. I think he's really good for baseball right now. He's really matured. And he kind of embodies that Philly mentality that sports fans have. And it's just kind of fun and crazy and weird, and different from the rest of you know, professional sports fans. But it encapsulates, you know, the Premier League. You know, you hear about it all the time, how much fun soccer is in Europe and all these other continents. So I think Harper was the right guy, and I think it's good for baseball personally.
Couldn't agree more. Does anyone else have a take on this, Joel or Jeff? Did either of you want to jump in about the international
I
side of the
I
game?
could see at some point along the way their baby being an international like league of some sort, like some way of incorporating Japan, Korea, like an Asian. I could see different continents kind of forming their own leagues eventually if they have enough players to do it. But I don't see, yeah, I agree. I don't see us having a team in London. It's like, I know Toronto is a weird way of putting it, but we have a rugby team here that used to play teams in Britain. We were the only team that wasn't from there, and we had to fly across the Atlantic all the time. And we were really good at it. Towards the end of the season, they couldn't do it anymore. They just like flopped.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work. Like, you got to think about the travel. You know, travel for the West Coast teams alone these days is bad enough. You know, can you imagine having to do that? Go from Seattle to London or something like that, or like San Diego to London? No, I don't think that. If you're gonna have expansion, it's going to be North American. And I know you and I talked about this the other day, where if they do it, you add two more teams, and then you do a really really radical realignment, like very much geographical. Like, remember we were talking about the Northeast League would be like Toronto and Detroit and Cleveland and Pittsburgh, you know, in one, and do it like that. That's the only way expansion is going to happen these days. And I think that would be really great, to be honest with
And
you.
I
would
think
love
it's
to
in the plans. I
Yeah.
truly do. I mean, there's too much money on the line once the A's are finally settled, which, I mean, they still aren't. Like, it's
Did you see the hole? I was watching. There's a hole in the outfield wall at the base. It's not a small hole. It's like, it was like this big.
Yeah, taped
And
over
it-
with green tape. I'm like,
And it
this
was
is the most.
and it was rusty.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at it going like, oh man, they should just be in Portland right now. Like, just put them somewhere else. Like, that stadium, it's just, somebody's gonna get hurt.
The only mandatory shots for the Oakland Athletics are tetanus shots. If you're gonna play out in the outfield, you need your tetanus shot.
Yeah, no, it's like
Okay.
Oakland's good. Yeah.
We are now at the topics point of the show where we go around the panel and we get all of your topics for Long Toss. This is episode 307. Hit that like button if you're watching us live right now, and subscribe if you're not already to the channel. We do appreciate all of you grounds crew members here. Thank you so much. We have tried to get to the chat as much as possible. Apologies if you feel you have been ignored. Just keep trying. That's how we do it here on the walk off. All right, we're going to start right now with, I think we're going to go to you, Joel. I'd love to hear your topic for today, and we'll go around the horn and see what everyone thinks.
Sure. It's kind of I'm going to transition it off of Kevin Biggio. Major League Baseball's strangely kind of the only real professional American sport that doesn't allow trades of draft picks. Can't trade your draft picks in Major League Baseball. It's been something that's kind of been in the game since, I believe, the 1960s. Just kind of held true on since the very first ever baseball draft. You were never able to trade draft picks. And it's a
Another
situation that-
gentleman's agreement, eh?
well, it's an interesting situation because to me this is very much Kevin Biggio for a fourth rounder type thing, right? And the fact that that's still a discussion that you can't have, which is like, we'll trade a draft pick, we'll get this over with. He doesn't have to toil around through all of these different stages of being available to a team or here or traded or DFA'd and then work out a trade. We'll give you a fourth rounder, and it's just done. And he's over on another team, and he's playing, and you get the players. To me, I just don't understand that situation because it just feels like you're able to trade commodities, and you're able to build teams more with future. Like, you're in the moment, you want to trade some future prospects. You don't know what they are. We're better at developing other people's talent. Like, it just seems like some teams really find themselves more in trading draft picks than actually drafting draft picks. And the fact that we don't really have that ability in baseball in 2024, I'm still kind of wondering why that hasn't come around.
It's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Sorry, I just want to mention as we continue on this topic, you can trade competitive balance picks. So it's not entirely true that you can't trade draft picks. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wouldn't it primarily be because the value wouldn't be that high because you have an allotment of money, like you only have a certain amount of money you can spend. So if all of a sudden you have your fourth rounder and another team's fourth rounder, how do you get those guys signed? Like if you're picking up additional picks, you don't have the money there isn't enough money to go around to sign them all. So you'd rather just have a prospect. You'd rather just, or is it maybe because they're just not as valuable because there's only so much money to spend every draft year?
It's funny because baseball is such an interesting sport when you look at the developmental side of things, because it really does take such a long time from the moment that these guys get drafted, somewhere between 18 and 22 years old. And then they're still not, even the top first round picks normally take another 3 years, and you're kind of crossing your fingers. And then there is, like Sean mentioned, the money attached to all of these slots and how it would work out. I think it is time that baseball kind of sits down and kind of revisits how they do the draft. And I think the international free agency signing should be involved in this as well, because there's definitely some shady stuff that goes down there with them making backdoor handshake deals with Dominican 13-year-old kids, right? So
Well,
Yeah,
they have
makes
made
no-
change.
the
They
whole
have made
thing-
changes though. Like they've shortened the draft. Like there's no more
Yes.
28th round guys, right? So that's a big one. Is I think it's only 5 or 6 rounds now, for one thing. And also they've eliminated how many minor league teams, right? Like they decimated the minor leagues. That's why we all have, I think, 4 teams basically as our minor league systems. Like the Jays used to have like 7 or 8 of them. You could like Dominican League and so the summer leagues, all that kind of stuff. So what they've done is kind of raised the stock a little bit more, but they've also left a lot of players out of this. And I know there's talk about having an international draft. I don't know if you can, unless you're going to you're going to have to expand the draft process again. You couldn't do 5 rounds with international players. You'd have to go 10, 15 deep at least. So you'd have to make a lot of really big changes. And to Sean's point, how you equate your fourth rounder with their fourth rounder if you used less money on this guy because you used more money on your second round pick, right?
Yeah,
Because
I guess you could easily, you could easily say, well, if you're trading the pick, you get the money too, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
but it's just a little added, like you said, that little wrinkle that doesn't happen most in a lot of other places, just because of the allotment of where you put your money on things.
But
So
also just the fact that it would be a lot of work for it to happen doesn't mean that it shouldn't be overhauled. Like
No.
there are some glaring problems with the way that and in particular the international free agent signings. But I mean, you're right. It would be a big upheaval. They would need to really change things. And I know New Brunswick, Canada guy here says, he kind of beat me to it. He says 2026 new CBA should be interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be,
Well, would you-
it might be the Jen,
you make
over under. Do you think 2026 CBA, do you think it's the first time we see an actual work stoppage? I know that they missed the first couple weeks go almost 3 years ago now, but do you think we could actually see some like lack of baseball in 2026? Do you think the Players Association is gearing up for a fight here?
I think it's really possible. Yes, I do. I
Jeff?
don't know what the main sticking point would be, but I think that the Players Association is willing to go however many rounds.
I agree. Jeff, do you think there's a work stoppage possibility in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's more so now. I mean, they've alleviated a few problems. Like one of the main ones was paying minor league players proper salary. I know the Jays actually were one of the first teams to pay their
Mhm.
minor league guys actually really well, right? So that's kind of not so much. But the international thing is going to be a big problem because I mean, Vladdy's I mentioned it's always with this international signings, right? And I know you can make trades based on like money allocations as well when it comes to international signings. So do you make an international draft? Like why not have a North American draft and an international draft? You don't have to combine the two, right?
No, you
So
don't.
exactly. So if you do something like that, it might be a little more appeasing to the Players Association, but the Players Association is just going to want them to make as much money for their guys as they possibly can. And I think in a draft situation, because you keep changing the allocations, like, oh, the second round, guy who gets picked first gets this, second gets this, but you know what? We're going to pay this guy less and this guy more, makes it difficult. You know what I mean? I just find that very a variable that needs to be alleviated a little bit. Cause like we did that with Kloffenstein. And when who was it that he got drafted with the same guy from the same high school. So they kind of changed how much they're going to pay one guy to make sure Kloffenstein can come in and join his buddy. This guy we traded to the Marlins, can't remember his name offhand. But things like that. Yeah, I think you just need to have a set thing. Why make it so difficult? Just make it that, you can pay these guys a certain amount, but nothing where you're taking from Peter to Rob Paul kind of thing.
How could you have a separate international draft? Like, because then you're like, okay, you finished last, you get the first pick in the North American draft and the first pick in the international. Like, you get to double dip.
Yeah. Well, there'd have to be a
Or
way
how
to
do we
around it. I don't think they'll combine them. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I just don't think it will. And to make it more fair when you're talking international, I just think big market teams still can do better. I know they try and do their best to kind of quell it with international money allocation, but you can always outspend if you have to. There's always a way to do it. We just got to take the loopholes out of those kind of things, right?
Seems like
And
there's a big appetite for getting rid of the luxury tax too. So there may not be a work stoppage if you have the richest teams who are always the most influential teams saying, "To hell with it,"
Yeah.
no luxury tax. Let's go back
Yeah.
to the olden days.
Where the rich get
player-
richer.
Players love that.
Yeah.
Players love it. So that's a huge concession right out of the gate in 2026. If you have the top 10 owners, the Steinbrenners and the Dodgers and even the Jays, I guess, like if they're like, forget it. I don't mind spending an extra $40 million to get the player, but I'm not
As long as I'm not taxed for it.
yeah, as long as I'm not giving
Don't
20
tax me.
million. Yeah, I don't want to give the White Sox 20 million to put new seats in.
no, but what they need is not a salary. They need a salary floor. I think that's the first big thing. And I know the Players Association's big on that kind of thing is, each team's got to spend something. You can't like cheap it out the way a lot of like Oakland does. I'm not seeing it as much, but you got to spend $100 million each year. Just that's the minimum you got to spend. And I
So
think that would help
Juan-
the competitiveness anyway.
So Juan, I'm going to go to you with your topic here, but before I do so, I'm going to let you answer a question from the chat here. Michael Bolin says, how can they go on strike when a guy got $700 million for a contract? Do you want to chime in on that? Your feelings, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that's the outlier, right? Like I don't think the players union or the association is worried about the Otanis or the contract that Soto is going to sign or the contract that Trout is on. It's more so trying to even that playing field in the first 6 years, right? You have to be legitimate for 6 years before you get your payday, and it's hard to be that good that long. I think the players want to take care of those guys that are in the league 1 or 2 years, the guys like Kevin Biggio who got at least to the 5th year and hopefully can set himself and his family up for life, even though I understand he's a legacy and it's a little bit different. So yeah, I think there's absolutely room for the player side to get some concessions from the owners, even though there are these massive contracts that exist. I'm very, very big in the belief of pay the players. I hate when people make arguments about, oh, these guys make way too much money. It's just a game. That money's going to exist, and I'd rather it go to the players than some billionaire's pocket. So, Otani's an outlier, $700 million contract. Its actual value in today's market is more like 445, I think, once they factored in inflation and all those things across the decade. But it's more so about getting those guys paid that aren't the Otanis and the Sotos and the Vladimir Guerreros. So, yeah, I absolutely think so.
All right, Juan, lay your topic on us. What are we talking next?
Yeah, it's kind of just a weird, fun little thing. And I'm going to set the over under at 3.5. And you just choose over or under. How many All-Stars are going to appear with the Blue Jays and Mariners combined? Are we going over 3.5 or under 3.5 total?
Oh. Ooh.
Let's go to you,
I
Jen.
like this one. I like this one. Jen, do you want to start us off here?
Okay, so Juan, who from the Mariners are you sending?
Munoz is a very realistic possibility.
Okay.
And we think maybe a starter.
Maybe.
Maybe a starter.
Okay. And then from the Jays, we're figuring Jose Barrios
Yeah.
and
Garcia.
Garcia.
Maybe Vladdy.
Does
Vladdy,
Garcia
I would
have enough
imagine-
saves though?
Pardon?
I don't know. I mean,
No, but Garcia's got the numbers. Like they're doing a lot of
numbers are awesome.
Yeah, the numbers are like off the charts.
I think
but-
I'm going over. I think I'm going over 3.5
Yeah.
between the two of them.
Yeah, I was
Because
going to say, just naming them.
The Jays and the Mariners fan bases are notorious ballot stuffers.
This is
Yes.
true.
Like,
This
We
is
do
we
love to stuff those ballots. Yeah.
So we could see a situation where Bo's going, and
Yeah.
it's okay, everybody, let's chill out,
Yeah.
I
David
can see it
Schneider
being-
makes the All-Star game. And that's a
Fan base
real
is
30.
possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This fan base would stuff the ballot box for Kevin
Yeah.
Biggio at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I set the over under way too low. My mistake. I didn't factor in all the fact that you guys have an entire country voting for one team.
Yeah, we stuffed those ballots big time.
Fair enough.
Okay. We'll move on. Fun topic, Juan. Nicely done. Jen, what do you got for us?
we've actually already kind of talked about this, so we can probably skip me, to be honest. But I just kind of wanted to, I guess, give a little shout out to those athletics fans who are sitting out there trying to show support to the team with their reverse boycott, wanting the team to be sold, trying to show that it will work under new ownership. Kudos to all of them. It was a little bit sad watching that series, right? Because the Jays and the Athletics, they have a shared history here. And this is the last time that the Jays will play in Oakland. And, I know no one's going to miss the Coliseum itself, but it does feel like a little bit of an end of that shared history. And I was going to kind of work that into the topic of the competitive balance tax, how much money is going to a team like the Athletics, and does their ownership have to account for what they're doing with that money? Like, do they have to demonstrate proof that is being spent on players or spent on upgrades, or is that just money that's being allocated and no one knows what's being done with it? And is there anything...
trust John Fisher to take care of the money?
Yeah.
And is there anything that Major League Baseball can do? I guess the salary floor would be one of them, to kind of, prevent these types of situations for just dragging on for years.
No, this Oakland situation's been ridiculous for too long. You're right.
I think
just
they
go back to-
allowed it because they wanted a team in Vegas as quickly as possible.
And I think it's the worst idea is putting a team in Vegas. And I'll tell you, for a non-baseball reason, they're running out of water. I wouldn't put anything in Vegas right now. Honestly, I just think they've got enough. I would put them in Portland.
AstroTurf, who cares? You know what I mean? You don't need sprinklers, baby. Let's just roll it out.
No, I think
Does the
I think-
NHL prove that sport worked in Vegas every other league is tripped over themselves to get in there, so.
Well, how did the Raiders do? Are they drawing already in Vegas? Because they're there now,
They
right?
do really well. The problem is it's basically it'll be a horrible place for a player to play
Yeah.
a game because the other team's entire fan base is loaded up. There's like, so it's
Yeah.
4-1 the other team's fans to your fans for an NFL game.
Well, no, I just remember Oakland, like you were talking about shared history, Jen. Like I remember the '89 series, I was in the stadium when Canseco hit that home run to the fifth deck, and the whole stadium just went silent. Like Mike Flanagan, the look on his face was priceless. And Robbie Alomar's home run, that turned the series around. Like there's some great history there too. So it is sad to see them go. Even with going back to like Gene Tennis, that's another shared history with the Jays, right? There's another guy, the teams they had in the '70s. Like it's just so the history that comes with the A's is crazy. I mean, they're one of the originals, right?
I mean,
even
there's so many stories too, right? Like, not to cut you off, Jeff,
No,
but
that's
I know that I was watching the biography on Reggie Jackson, and he's literally they're talking to Dave Stewart, who was a kid sneaking in. So Reggie Jackson used to go to the back and let all the kids in for free, who the security would try and keep out, right? And Dave Stewart was one of those kids. And like later, obviously a Oakland A's hero himself, right? And it's just like, this is the sort of thing we're losing because John Fisher wants to go to a state that's going to build him where he doesn't have to build the building. Like, and that's all this is about.
Well, that goes back to the other thing with building these stadiums is they have the support, but there's so much red tape to do these things now, and these owners wanting the public to pay for their stadiums when they're billionaires makes no sense to me at all, and it happens all the time.
And Oakland has lost so much.
Exactly.
Just in the last, I mean, they've lost their basketball team. They lost their basketball team to San Francisco. I mean, it's just like it's for that city, it's awful.
It's becoming really poor. Like if they did the waterfront revitalization they talked about around there, that would have created so many jobs and things and could have saved part of that city already. But it's becoming a pretty nasty place to go these days for that reason. There's just nothing there.
Yeah. They lost some other professional sports team too. I don't even know. I can't remember. I know they lost their basketball team, but God, who else did they lose? But yeah, I mean, for them just to watch all your pro teams go away, rooted for, and then you're like, are they going to go to Sacramento and wear the green and yellow, like, and keep our name and like? I hope not. I hope it's just like, no, we get to keep that. That's ours.
No, I heard they're not. I heard that they
thing.
are not getting to use the Athletics, so they're just going to be Sacramento with.
Perfect, of course.
Which
Sacramento baseball team.
It literally makes it just the worst. Like it's just like, God, this organization sucks.
Sacramento, BC, the baseball club.
I still don't quite understand that going to Sacramento for 1 year and eating it again financially. Like who in Sacramento is interested in a 1 year baseball team?
Well, it's 100 years of history repeating itself with the Athletics, right? It dates all the way back to like Connie Mack in Philadelphia, right? There's the style of not truly going for it and always shipping off your players to consistently rebuild has always been the Athletics mentality, the jump to Kansas City just to jump to Oakland. And they are truly one of the most storied franchises in the history of the game. Like whatever era you go back to, there's generational talent that always sat on this team, and it really goes to show that even winning in this situation doesn't mean, because that's a winning franchise. That's a very successfully winning franchise, right? And it breaks my heart to see Oakland leave. That's a part of the game to me, what Oakland stands for when Oakland's successful, right? It's a real shame.
It's a bummer. Sean, what's your topic for today, bud?
Well, I was thinking about this before I came on because Scott Belford. It's a shout out to Scott Belford because Scott is the only sports fan I know that's sort of just gotten more screwed over than me that I can think of. We're just cheering for losers nonstop, and I just wanted to give him a shout out because as soon as the Edmonton Oilers started the season 2-9-1. Scott Belford, they lost to the San Jose Sharks, and Scott Belford tweeted out, that's Sharks hockey, which
I did.
is
Yes.
very funny and snarky. But that was the moment I knew that the Edmonton Oilers were going to the Stanley Cup final. Just screw Scott Belford over. And
Yes.
also,
Yes.
yeah, and I know they're probably going to lose in the final and whatever. I don't have a lot of confidence, but yeah, I knew that they were going to make the final as soon as I heard that Sharks hockey from Scott's account. And I
No,
also
that's the
tweeted-
thing. As a Flames fan, I'm in a very precarious spot here, Sean, where I don't know. I'm not cheering for the Oilers, but it'll be a cold day in hell. I cheer for Matthew Tkachuk. So it's just like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a total. And I also wanted to say to this just goes out to, that's what I love about sports is, especially in the playoffs, whether it's baseball or hockey, primarily baseball or hockey, but it's great you can just prognosticate. You can say, here's who I think is going to win. And if the team you think is going to win wins, you say, there you go. They won. Aren't I smart? If the team you pick to win loses, you don't say I was wrong. You say the team you picked to win that lost ran out of gas. And so I've noticed that through the Oilers progression here is like, no, I wasn't wrong about Dallas. They ran out of gas. And you're like, and then I realized how many times I've done it through my history of picking teams and being wrong and just being like, no, I wasn't incorrect. The team I picked ran out of gas.
It's really tough here, Sean, sitting June 9th and looking at the Blue Jays gas gauge and being like, oh no, we're on E. It's June.
We're already running out of gas. Like John Schneider is already like managing like it's the last 2 weeks of the season. He has no choice. It's crazy that we're in this spot where it's like being managed like this.
Backs against the wall.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, bring us home, buddy. What's your topic for tonight?
Oh man, this is going to cause so much dissension. The idea of moving Vladdy back to third. And the only reason I think that it might end up being a good idea, I wouldn't do it this year. I would prep him for next year, but I think it's easier to get a power hitting first baseman than it is to find a third baseman. And Vladdy's got a cannon of an arm. He's got pretty good hands. Do we think that if they had to do it, could Vladdy handle being moved back to third starting in the 2025 season?
Why would you? I mean, I get it, but like he's won a Gold Glove at first base. Let it be. Figure out how to solve that issue some other way. You know, you're taking a strength and making it a weakness in your infield when you have a great starting rotation. Don't hurt the defense. You guys don't have enough offense. I think you leave it alone personally.
Well, that's the point. Like I think Vladdy could be an average third baseman, but I think it's easier to find a really good hitting first baseman than a really good hitting third baseman. And I think that's like, if we're going to be adding offense, that's the one place I think we could do it. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying I would do it, but I've thought about it more now than I have before.
Depending on
Jen?
how long these two are still on the team, an average third baseman with Bo at short may not be the best.
Yeah.
May not be the best move forward. And I agree, Vlad's won a Gold Glove at first base, right? And he's he's not hitting home runs, which is what they wanted out of him, but he's certainly hitting the ball. So I feel like, why mess with that? I totally get your point, but I would say no.
I'm kind of in the same boat too. I think that him doing it from time to time is a way to make this lineup a little bit more offensively potent. But honestly, no matter how you line this up, you can't fool me. Okay, you can't fool me now. You fooled me a year ago. You fooled me 18 months ago. You fooled me 6 months ago. I'm not fooled again. All right.
Fool me 5 times.
But fool me 5 times. Shame on you. Yes.
Yes.
I won't get fooled again.
Okay. So based on all that, then
I'll fight for the other side of it.
Yes,
I'll
Joel,
fight for the other side of it, because I've always been on the other side of this argument. I never thought he should have gone to first base. I thought that was a tremendous mistake. He has an absolute cannon of an arm. That tool is completely removed from his skill set. You look at Rafael Devers and the amount of time that the Red Sox gave him to learn third base. And now he's still below average, but a relatively average third baseman with that type of skill set, that type of bat is so much more valuable than the first baseman. You can go get that first baseman any day of the week, that commodity. Bryce Harper becomes a first baseman. This guy becomes a first baseman. Everybody's a first baseman if they want to be. That's their fallback position to every other position in the game. So I always was destroyed by the fact that they didn't have the patience or the wherewithal to understand that that guy should be at third base. Gold Glove first base, what is that? That's not a thing. Average third baseman with 30 home run pop, that is something that you build around because you can go get that good solid first baseman. Then you have a 3-hole hitter and a 4-hole hitter, not a gap in that 4-hole spot and not having a cleanup guy to literally knock in runs for you. So I've when Freddie Freeman was on the market there, I was like, Vladdy at third, you bring in Freddie Freeman for $160 million. You've got that's a lineup that would still be producing now, but I never understood the move to first base.
I mean, I'm with you. I would have been fine with Vladdy at third if you move Freddie to first. I mean, that's just like, it just sounds like a dream to me. Of course you would do that. Juan, I am really impressed at how well you've bit your tongue here. I can see you have things and opinions on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like sitting here based off of the contract and who he is and when he made that transition from third to first base, I don't get the argument personally. I can't think of a single person in the entire league who I'd rather have as my first baseman right now than Vladimir Guerrero, and I would not say that if he was at third base. So, his body frame, his agility, he was never going to stick at third base long term, and they saw him as the face of the franchise. He's going to be more likely to stay healthy and be more productive as a first baseman with his bat. Just call it a win, man. Just, I think they got that one right. I don't agree with Joel at all, personally.
Sean,
I just think it's like the Devers.
Vladdy at third.
It's almost like the Devers thing where I would assume the Red Sox knew. I mean, Devers was a garbage third baseman, but the Red Sox were like, well, he's not re-signing with us unless he's third base. Like a lot of these players, that's what it comes down to. Is like, Bo's not re-signing a long-term deal with Toronto unless he's a shortstop. And so I guess it would just depend on what are Vladdy's thoughts. Is Vladdy like, I want to sign a long-term deal with somebody who's going to put me at third base? Or is he like, no, I like first base and I'll stay here? Like, I don't know. I think it comes down to that. What does Vladdy want to do?
I doubt he wants to play third base based off the success he's had at first base and his market value. I understand third base is a more valuable position, but it's different when you're on a level.
He plays when he goes to the Dominican League and plays. He plays third base.
He plays shortstop sometimes.
Yeah, he plays the left side of the infield when he's there. He doesn't play first base.
Yeah, because he's allowed to have fun. Then it's not about the 25.
But that's the thing with Vladdy is that guy got to have fun. Like if he's not happy, he's slumpy. When he's happy, he's doing fine. The jacket came back, and oh my god, he's sitting like 360, right? So I think he can handle. Like I'm with Joel on this because I don't think they gave him enough time at third. I mean, he was a train wreck. Don't get me wrong, but that's what he grew into. And this goes back to, do you bring him up to the majors and then throw him somewhere else? And great, he's a great first baseman, but that's the thing. He's got more agility than people think he does. And he's got a cannon of an arm. And I think Bo's not going to stay. So if you can get a shortstop with some range, I don't see it as a bad thing.
Beyond him having a cannon, he has a bullseye accurate cannon. It's not just a cannon. It's a cannon that always is right into the middle of the glove. Wherever he's throwing, he has an amazing arm. And that was the skill set that I felt was like, you build off that. If he didn't have that skill set, I never would have understood him being a third baseman. No. But that arm covers that lackluster glove. I felt if you could get that glove to average, the arm supersedes and makes him a standard third baseman.
Yeah. And like I said, the only reason I brought this argument up is because first base is easy to find. That's like Joel said. That's the only reason I said it. It's easy to find a first baseman and not a third baseman. And Aurelvis Martinez, who's our only power guy, is not being trained at third, which I don't understand. But anyway, Scott.
And on that, we are going to call it a wrap. A big thank you to everyone who followed along with us live in the chat. Truly appreciate you. Feel free to hit that like button and subscribe before you call her a night here. And remember, Baseball Town in Toronto, Comedy Bar Danforth. We have the one and only Caitlin McGrath with The Athletic. We have Scott Mitchell with TSN, and Keegan Matheson with MLB.com as our panelists. We're doing a roast battle. Tickets are pinned right now at the top of the comment section here, and we are doing a baseball town Seattle style with former pitchers of the Toronto Blue Jays, currently in the Seattle Mariners bullpen, Kirby Sneed and Taylor Cicero as our guests. Get your tickets for that. If you're a Vancouver person and you're making that trip down, let's outnumber the Americans, folks. Let's get those Canadian butts in seats, all right? Again, thank you so much, everybody. At Walk Off Podcast on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram, and the panel here, another exceptional Sunday. Let's go around the horn and give credit where credit is due. Jeff, good to have you back, my man. Please
Thanks,
let
man.
the people know where they can follow your baseball knowledge.
Well, 40-40 Men is going to be up and running again soon. I've lost my other 40 still. So thanks to you and meeting up with you today. By the way, I had a great time hanging out with you the other day. We had a lot of fun. You can, like I said, check out the 40-40 Men, or if you're looking for a good voiceover actor, jeffreymorton.com. And I could be your voice for so many things.
Love it. Now, baseball, Jen, if we go to more baseball games together and they keep winning, it's going to need to be a regular thing, I think.
I think so. And I think we could do a live podcast, literally,
We
like just a
we
live
really did.
reaction show.
I actually felt for the people beside us as we were like, we really went down a negative hole that was very, very negative at the time there. But it's funny that our negativity turned that into two wins in a row that tied the, split the series, and then they win against the Athletics. Jen, where can folks follow you on Twitter?
I am baseball_Jen, and that is Jen with 2 N's.
Joel, my interim co-host.
Hmm.
We'll be back at it on Tuesday with Mailbag. I'm looking forward to that, my friend. Where can let's give a little love to your TikTok here, buddy. Where can folks follow some of your content? Because honestly, your baseball content is just, it's fun, it's wacky. Sometimes it's really pointing out things that maybe Major League Baseball doesn't want pointed out, and sometimes it's fun and light and easy to deal with. Where
I
can
like
we
it
follow
when
you,
it's
bud?
that. I like it when it's more lighthearted stuff. Yeah, right there. Hey, Kami _ Kami on TikTok. Yeah, just try to do generally positive content. If you go back far enough, you're going to see the whole foreign substance stuff. Like that stuff's pinned at the top of my page because it's probably the highest viewed stuff that I've done. But since that stuff was cleaned up, and some people still use it a little bit, but most of my page has just been directed towards positive baseball content, or so yeah, check it out. It's content for all baseball fans too, so it's not just general Blue Jays fans. It's content for all baseball fans all over the place.
At S. Lacomber on Twitter. Sean, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. I didn't even give you a big pump of the tires or anything. I'm letting you go out just like you want.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay, and finally, least and last. No, last but not least.
Least but not last.
From the walk-off Mariners.
It would actually would have been funnier if you'd gone to me and said least but not last. And then...
Follow him at Eslacomber. Yeah, so Juan Forno, my good friend and the host of the Walk-Off Mariners, where can folks follow you? And let's pump it up a little bit here. Let's get some of these folks helping you out with some subs on YouTube.
Yeah, that was a riveting intro to the exit here. Thank you so much for that. We're over at the Walk Off Mariners podcast on YouTube. We're growing exponentially. It's really exciting to see. We've actually had followers from you guys come over as well and interact with us, which thank you so much. It's really cool to see that kind of happening in real life. And then just really excited to see how many Blue Jays fans show up July 6th in Seattle. We know it's always a fun weekend when you guys come to town, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of adult orange juices and hot dogs and whatever else shenanigans consumed that weekend. And we look forward to having fun live for the first time.
Truly looking forward to it. A big thanks to all of you in the grounds crew. Appreciate you all. A little tip of the hat as well to our producer, the one and only Johnny Eaton. So thank you, Johnny. Great job once again. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Recording stopped.